Now that we've seen our supervisor module, which we shall actually dive into details later on, I wanted to show you the next module in line, and this is the sales module. Very, very important. I mean, which business doesn't love sales? So let's get started. For sales, all we are trying to track here is sales. So I have some sample data in the system for demonstrating what happens with sales. So for sales, we're assuming that at your farm you have a salesperson. This is where they will be actually working. This will be their office online. Basically, whenever they're working with the system, they will be interacting with the sales module. So the first step is to add sales. You click add sales, and then remember we are focusing on poultry for now. We are not focusing on anything else. So this demonstration is for poultry, but this system again can be applied to any sort of farming activity. So let's take an example for poultry. We normally have sales of eggs. We have sales of, as you see here, that these categories are good eggs, damaged eggs, powered eggs, manure or flares, and of course you're gonna see some other things that are non-poultry related, and then others. So if whatever you're trying to sell is not here, and this part can be customized for your need, you can always use others and then manually put in whatever that category is. But let's go and use the good egg sales. So when you click on the good egg sales, there are two things that happen. You get this pop-up menu, sorry, pop-up form. In this form, we are trying to track certain information. Number one, we are trying to track SKUs. This is usually the batch number. Each farm has, probably the bigger farms, that you find that you have more than one type of flock. Even if it's all chicken, you might have flock that you introduced to the farm in January, and then you have like the younger ones that you introduced in June. We cannot monitor all these flock as one. Sorry, we can monitor it as one, but we also divide it into the different batches. So for example, we have some sample data here for you. We have like, a flock named 2023C. This naming here, you can name whatever you want, whatever makes sense to you. The reason we have 2023C is because this batch we bought in 2023, and it wasn't really, there is no other batch uh, we bought within the same year. Actually, I take that back. We bought two batches in the same year. So one is named 2023C and the other is named 2023D, as I may show you here. The D and C, those are the houses these birds are kept in. We have house A, B, C, D, and so on and so forth. So if we introduce stock at the farm in 2024, we're probably going to have maybe another house ready, and whatever that house number is, we shall say 2024 and then the letter that represents that house number. So I hope that makes sense. But again, this is whatever you identify your batch. It doesn't matter what you name it, but make sure it makes sense to you because you're going to interact with it along the way. That being said, let's continue with our form. So here we are entering a cell of eggs that are produced by this particular batch. And it's very important to keep separate records because of the different batches, because that's when you'll be able to identify a performing and non-performing batch. Other than that, if you just take the entire flock, the different batches, you might never be able to figure out the non-performing batches or if there's any issue with one of the batches. So here, when we're entering data, we separate according to the batch. So 2023D, I'm going to assume that maybe they laid 100 trays of eggs. So 100 trays of eggs in a standard tray of eggs has 30 eggs. So if we have 100 trays of eggs, that means we have 3,000 eggs. And depending on how you calculate your trays, maybe you're going to go by the dozen, The idea here is you're gonna put in the pieces of eggs, not whatever the quantity is. Like if a tray has 30 eggs, if we are selling one tray here, we are going to put in 30 eggs. If your tray equals 30 eggs. If your tray is equal to 45 eggs, you put in 45. We're just tracking the eggs and nothing else. Doesn't matter whether your tray is 45, 60, 70 eggs. The idea behind is to track down the number of eggs that your flock is laying. So for 2023 deep flock, let's assume we are selling uh, one tray of eggs today. Actually, pardon me, in this form here, this particular quantity is not for, it's not for pieces of eggs, it's for actual trays of eggs. So if it's one tray, you're going to put in one tray. And I'm sorry because this confused me with another module where we track the different eggs, and I'll show you that module. Pardon me for that mistake. But to proceed, if it's one tray of eggs, you're gonna put in one tray, and if you sold it for maybe say $10 or whatever your currency is, you put in the $10 here, and as you may see, it has updated here to 10 as the total. If you sold two trays, it's going to update to 20. If you put in 25 is going to update to 250. So this will update here in real time. And the mode of payment, if it's cash or if it's a bank transfer, in most cases in Africa especially, it's going to be cash. So I wouldn't change this much. But again, I'll show you where the two options might apply. And here the date will always be the current date, but you can always backdate it because maybe you're late at entering your records for the day. Maybe this sale was for yesterday. This is where you'll be able to change that. And then because I'm a super admin, I'm able to see this option where it's either approved or not approved. But remember, your users will not see this option. As the administrator, it is very important that the person you give the administrator rights is a trusted person, because this is a person that is going to be approving all your system information that needs to be approved. For example, why do we need this approval? What if we wanted these eggs to be sold at $15, but the salesman or saleswoman is submitting this sale for $10 per tray? That wouldn't be approved. We would be questioning them, why are you underselling the eggs? And that's why we need the approval. So when the salesman or sales lady submits their sale, the administrator will receive a notification that there is a sale that has been submitted, and then it's up to them to review and then update or approve it or deny it, whichever option applies. This is another option where your salesperson will probably, if they have a receipt, they can attach it. If they have any information that is maybe that needs to be attached, they can attach it here, and you can add more attachments depending on your need. Comments are usually very useful if there is some explanation that needs to be done. For example, somebody might say, the reason I'm selling these eggs for $5 less than the normal price is because the market is really slow, and I wanted to make sure that I actually get these eggs sold before they get spoiled. So the supervisor or the administrator of the farm will actually see the notes, so the comments, and those comments are helpful. It's a way of communicating. They might resolve a lot of questions. So I really encourage all the salespeople to use this comment section whenever they see fit. Alongside this module, I'm going to show you the expense module, and then I'll come back to the sales module. So the sales and the expense modules, these are the same pretty much. The difference is one, you're making a sale, and the other, you're spending money. So for spending, again, the same concept. You go to the expense module and you click on that. Add expense, you're going to see all the different categories, and if your category doesn't exist here, All you have to do is go into other and search. You're probably going to find it there. If you still can't find it, you can always reach out to your supervisor or manager to request that that category is added to the system. But again, it's the same concept. I'll take an example. If we are spending money on feeds, we are going to figure out, okay, we bought these feeds. Is there a batch associated with this purchase? And by batch, I mean which flock are we buying these feeds for? This can be confusing, but if we have a bunch of flocks at the farm, it doesn't really matter too much. All you have to do is select all the flocks that you're buying these feeds for. See, you can select more than one. So the idea is you're trying to track down the feeds that are brought to the farm and the purpose. You might have other things going on. You might keep your feed store separately. Maybe you have some cows and goats that also consume the same type of feeds. This is where you isolate and figure out which feeds belong to which flock. Going forward with our expense entry here, you're going to select the feed type. Right now we have maize bran, broken maize, shells, lime. The list goes on and on. But the idea is the system needs to know which feed type you're actually trying to record. The quantity, you're going to put in the quantity. And then here where it says total price, you're going to put in the total amount. Not the price per quantity, but the total. So if maybe you have 100 kgs of feeds, and the price per kg was $1, right here you're going to put in $100 total of whatever the quantity is. Same date concept of the date entry. You're going to select the date. It's always going to default to the day, the current day, but you can always change that back. And then mode of payment, cash, which is the most common in Africa, but it could be different in another country. You might select bank transfer. And then comments, we've already seen that. If you want to add a comment here, maybe I bought only 100 kgs, but the vendor gave us 5 kgs more. You might put that in here, or any other comments. And then the attachment. And then again, I'm seeing this approved because I'm one of the admins for this farm. But for the users, they will not be able to see this at all. They don't even know that this exists. So that is the expense module in brief. So I'll go back to the sales module really quick. So under sales module, as an administrator, you're going to like this next page. So you click on that page. When you click on that page, as an admin, I want you to pay attention to one of the options you have with this demo data. So you will be able to click here to see any transactions that require approval. So take an example. If approval is required for this, you will see those details here. So as you may see, we have approved is no, this is not approved. So if we are going to approve it, we can look at the data first to see what we are approving. So we can see that Grace sold good eggs. She sold 8 trays and at the price of 12,000. Total is that, the date, and she says she found 3 pieces damaged and 3 pieces poured. This is very important because sometimes it gives us feedback to understand what's going on in the market. But this looks good. This is the rate that is recommended, and I don't see any problems with this transaction. So this is how I approve it. You can select all here and do a bulk update. But since it's only one transaction, I'll show you how to actually approve this one transaction. But in case you had like 10 or 20, you would review one at a time, and then probably the best would be to select all and then do a bulk approval. That will come really handy, but let me show you how to do it just like this. So we know that this requires approval, and we are going to go ahead and click this pencil icon to approve it. So in the approval, what you're doing as an admin, you're identifying the eggs that Grace sold. Are they belonging to a certain batch? Because we need to be able to track that down too. We track the batches all the way. all the way whenever we can. And usually the salespeople probably will never know which batch of eggs they're selling, but as an admin, it is vital that you know, because that data is going to help you a lot in the future. So I know for sure that Grace is selling eggs from this batch 2022A, and I know that the price is good. I know she sold them cash, and it's not approved, so I'm going to approve this transaction. You click right there and then update. Boom, it's approved. If you go back here and say requires approval, there will be nothing. There's nothing to approve because it's approved. So if I click back on there, I'm going to see Grace's record here, and it says approved. Yeah. Attachments, Grace did not attach any. I would probably request her to attach some of these damaged eggs for us to see how the picture looks like in the future. But you have the idea now of how to approve a transaction. Okay, moving forward with the sales module. This is a bigger module. There is Egg Stock Manager. What does Egg Stock Manager do? As an admin, this is where you see all the eggs that your salespeople have at hand. So as you may see here, we have Grace, and we can see that she has 29 eggs at hand, 29 trays of eggs at hand. We see that John has 0 at hand. We see that Edwin has 0, Nora has 0, and Andrew has 0. We can see the negative here from the manager, and I'll explain. The only reason we have this negative is because the manager actually he processes all these eggs that are delivered to these different people. So literally the system initiates all these transactions, so it's always going to accumulate a negative here, but it's actually within these other people that he assigns the eggs to. It's a little bit hard to explain right now, but we consider this record not to count in our records at all. We only consider the other salespeople. I'll explain this in detail in the future. But we can see here, when you go to the sales, we can see that Adrian assigned John 387 trays, and these were approved. So in this window here, this is where eggs are assigned. For example, if Adrian has 100 trays and he cannot sell all those trays, he's probably going to assign them to another salesperson who probably has 0 left. And I think this is what happened. So Adrian, if I go down, Sam assigned Adrian 1,187 trays, and then Sam assigned Adrian another 6, and then Adrian assigned John 531 trays, Adrian assigned Grace 99, Sam assigned Nora 5, Sam assigned Adrian 578. So this is where we see the movement, like how are the eggs moving from the farm to our salespeople. If there is any shortage or any missing link, you come back to this data and you analyze it. That's where you'll be able to figure out what's going on. Okay, we won't delay on that. Again, still under the sales module, we have a salesperson egg stock. So salesperson egg stock, this is the module where your salesperson will actually see what they have at hand. Similar to the module I just showed you, which was the egg stock manager, but this egg stock manager is only seen by the admin of the farm. So the salesperson, and okay, if I go back to the egg stock manager, you see that I'm able to see every single salesperson in here. But when you go to the sales egg stock, you will only see data for that salesperson. So the salesperson is only going to see the data that belongs to them, and they will not see the other salespeople. And the reason for this separation is it wouldn't be a good idea for salespeople to see what other salespeople are doing. For example, if you have one salesperson selling the eggs at a higher price, you don't want to have them see that there is another salesperson selling them at a lower price. Otherwise, it's going to demotivate the one selling at a higher price to probably ask to reduce their price. So we keep it separate. Every salesperson is an independent salesperson. They don't need to know what the other one is doing. Under the sales module, we have the cash manager, and this cash manager is a very important tool for the admin to monitor where all the cash is. So if you click on it, you see that Harriet has 5 million, Grace has 840. This is all demo data, so this is not real data, it's just for demonstration for the system. So we can click right here to see, to sort, to see who has what. So these are clickable. When you click, it rearranges, it shuffles the data for you. But you can see that cash at hand, and you see who has it, and then you see the cash that is banked, and so on and so forth. And then below that, you're going to see that there is the totals here for you, total banked, and then the total cash at hand. Then you can see the cash movement as well, that from the bank, Andrew received 8 million on this date, and then on this other date on the 28th, Andrew received 20 million from the bank. So this is like the farm admin assigning Andrew this money. Maybe Andrew has to go buy a few things for the farm. So only the farm admin can access the bank money. So they are the only ones that can assign it to other people on the system. You can see that John assigned Andrew 4 point something million. This happens when probably John doesn't have a banking next to him. So Andrew is a trusted team member. He picks up the money from John. So John assigns it to Andrew, and Andrew accepts the money. And once that happens, this will be approved right here. If you click on this, you can see what John wrote down before he gave Andrew the money. The idea is we want to track every single detail, and if there is any issues, we can always come back to this log and try to figure out what's going on. So that is the cash manager. And as you may see here, this is where you do your transfers. So if I want to transfer money from the bank, right here, I'm going to assign it to Andrew, put in the amount. If I need to attach anything, any notes, and then I'll assign it to Andrew. Once this is assigned to Andrew, Andrew's account will not show that money as approved. It's going to be pending until Andrew approves it. That money will stay within my account, which is the administrator account. The moment Andrew approves it, it releases the money from my account to Andrew's account. And Andrew can only approve if he has actually received the money. So the system is built for that type of approval process. So I may say. Moving forward, we have a salesperson cash tracking. This is where, again, the salesperson is going to track their own money. They won't be able to see any other sales. So in this module, they are only going to track down their own money, their transactions between them and maybe someone else, but they will not be able to see other people transactions unless if that transaction is associated with them in one way or another. We shall elaborate more, and I'll offer training for any of those of you that are probably going to subscribe to this system after watching this video. There is always more training that I can give you. So the expense module is the same when it comes to approvals. You're going to select requires approval, and then you click on that. So you see all these expenses. I will be approving these expenses. Let me approve them now. We can see that Andrew paid upkeep, gave money to somebody, Richard, track helper. You read all the notes here. You know, I know what's going on for most of these, so I'll be reviewing one at a time. Weighing scales. Okay, that was a payment. I'm also looking at categories. Is this transport? Is that really transport, or is that food? It's very important to know the categories because we also track these expense categories at the end of each month. So mobile money, you see that transport, then you see the notes, Jeffy's transport. Okay, and then the feeds, you're going to see that he put in like quantity here for the feeds, and then he put in balance for farm maize. So I'm not going to approve this because it's not clear to me. I will probably ask Andrew what this is because it's not something that doesn't make sense. This price would have been higher, not just this for this amount of kilograms. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to select everything, but I'm going to unselect this particular one. and I see Andrew uploaded an image. Okay, this is some transaction he paid at the bank. Okay, I'll get back to this one. I'm going to go ahead and approve the rest of them because I don't see any objections. Again, I know for sure that these expenses are going to be attached to 2022A because this is the flock that we have currently that is supporting all our expenses. And then I'm going to say approved. I'm going to leave the date like this without changing it because it will maintain the same date that Andrew provided when he recorded this. But in case you have to change the date, maybe backdate it or choose another date, this is where you would also do this for all those transactions. But I'm gonna leave it the way it is. I only want to update this flock, and then I want to approve and then hit approve. As you may see, when I click requires approval again, I'm only having that one transaction that I'm going to most likely check in with Andrew to see what's going on that. Okay, that being said, I've shown you the modules. I've shown you the sales module and I've showed you the expense module.